Good evening, wrestling fans. We're your hosts, Lewis and Jaden from Evolution of Pro Wrestling. I am the Encyclopedia of Pro Wrestling.
And I'm Jay, the Whiz Kid of Pro Wrestling.
Always a great introduction. Guys, if most of you saw Hell in a Cell, Jaden, did you see that first match that they put with Roman Reigns and Jey Uso?
That blew my mind. I was, wow, the Wild Samoans,
just the build up. The build up to it, the way it was, like, not only did they show real emotion during the match, Roman Reigns crying, like literally crying in tears.
I was wondering
and Jey Uso crying in tears, like, holy shit, like the storyline was real. And then at the end, like you mentioned, the Wild Samoans just putting that turban on his neck signified he is the true tribal chief. Like, wow,
that was a good way.
That was a good way to end that match. Damn,
perfect.
I'm anxious to see where this rivalry is going to go.
Tell me
now.
About it.
And Jaden, speaking of rivalries, tonight's show features a rivalry that still people talk about to this day. You've heard about Ricky Steamboat and Macho Man. You've heard about Hulk Hogan and Andre the Giant. But many people still talk about to this day Shawn Michaels and Bret the Hitman Hart.
Well, yeah, a lot of people still talk to him about that.
Like, what's the rivalry? What makes it so interesting about this show?
Didn't they hate each other?
They actually
life?
did.
Yeah,
they actually like the beef was real.
Mm-hmm.
Like, it was real off-screen beef between Shawn Michaels and Bret the Hitman Hart.
And to me, when people have real beef, that just makes the rivalry in WWE even better, because you have a rivalry going on outside of WWE, and then you have a rivalry going on in
Good evening,
WWE.
Luis Cedeno, gentleman from EGCW. Excellent promotion up and coming this March. We're definitely going to be a part of that, and we're definitely looking forward to doing good things with him. Welcome, brother. Jaden, that rivalry between Shawn Michaels and Bret the Hitman Hart goes back to when they first started in professional wrestling. You know, these guys saw each other. They're like, okay, it's time to build up my characters. You know, Bret Hart was in the Hart Foundation. Shawn Michaels was in the Rockers. Do you remember seeing any of these tag team matches?
I remember seeing. I don't think I've ever seen matches, but of course.
But you've seen highlights.
I've seen highlights. I've seen the Rockers before. You know, Shawn. I forgot the other guy's name.
Marty Jannetty.
Marty Jannetty.
Yeah.
That's who it is. Marty Jannetty. And then I seen, you know, the Hart Foundation. You know, Bret Hart, Owen Hart. You know, people like that. So yeah, I've seen highlights of both of them, and you know, both tag teams were great tag teams, but I still feel like it was better off for Shawn Michaels to turn on Jannetty, and I feel like that's where his career...
It skyrocketed.
Exactly.
It skyrocketed. Now, here's my question, though. What if Bret Hart didn't leave WWE, I should say. What if the Montreal Screwjob never happened?
Okay, so
that's where
I know people are probably gonna question me about this, but I never really understood what the Montreal Screwjob was. So what was like the whole concept of that?
The Montreal Screwjob, pretty much, okay, Bret Hart was leaving WWE. He was going to WCW for more money, you know, as everybody knows. Bret Hart did not want to relinquish the WWE title. He didn't want to lose because it was in Canada, his hometown. So he took that as a sign of disrespect when you're making me lose in my own hometown. So he didn't want to do it. Clifford Freeman, welcome, brother. It's been a long time. You got You got Vince McMahon with a hard decision to make. You know, am I going to take the title away from this guy? You know, am I going to strip him? Am I going to cause him something? You know, what's next?
Right.
But that's the problem. So instead of, he pretty much kind of promised him to, I'll let you leave on a good note. But instead, he screwed him over. He had Shawn Michaels was putting him in a sharpshooter, and Bret Hart was ready to reverse, and the referee called for the bell. But it was Vince McMahon who called for the bell. That's where the controversy was. Wow. It was real life. It happened for real. You know.
So wait, why did he call? He just called the bell for what?
To cost Bret Hart the title.
So he wanted him to lose the title.
Yes, he wanted him to lose the title.
Then a lot would have been different if that wouldn't have happened.
That's what I'm saying. So what would have happened if Bret never left?
He probably
would Shawn Michaels had been the superstar that he was,
so
and
is that
Hall of Famer today.
So I know a lot about Shawn Michaels, but excuse me. So this Montreal Screwjob basically caused his whole career to go super high. Mm-hmm. Then I feel like if that Montreal Screwjob was not to happen, and if Shawn Michaels was trying to still be the guy he is today, it would have been a lot harder because back then, you know, Shawn Michaels, he was a really good wrestler. Prime Shawn Michaels is my favorite Shawn Michaels. So them wrestling, he's wrestling against a legend. I'm pretty sure Bret Hart was probably one of the most famous wrestlers at the time. And so was Shawn Michaels. But, you know, Bret Hart probably had more people over the edge of their seats more than Shawn Michaels did. So if that Montreal Screwjob was probably to never happen, Bret Hart would have probably still had the spotlight at the time. Even regardless if he would have left or if he would have stayed, he still would have had the spotlight. Okay, so you know they were both vying for number one. Yeah,
they were both going for it. So, Jaden, before we continue, fans, please feel free to share our content all over social media. Bring in your friends, your cousins, whoever.
Everybody.
Let's talk professional wrestling. Let's get it going. We're fans. We love it. Let's do it. Share, comment, like, bring it on. Let's take a few comments. We got Christopher Brown saying Vince screwed Bret also out of the fear that Bret was going to take the WWE title with him to WCW and brag that he had the other company's belt on their TV.
Dang.
So, yes.
So, I don't really blame Vince for doing that then, because that would be like a really dirty and cocky move by Bret Hart.
Well, he was thinking about the business. He was thinking from a business standpoint. But was it right? Some people don't think so. Some people say, okay, screw him. He should have went in for the business.
Now, I don't think. Okay, I have a lot to say about this Montreal Screwjob thing. Now that you told me the whole concept about it, like it's just all piecing together to me. I feel like Vince McMahon was in the right to do that because that, like I said, that would just be a really cocky and dirty move to go on to another company with a different company's title.
Well, Louis Cedeno just said it right. He said he didn't want Bret to leave as the top guy, you know, and then leaving with the world title.
It wouldn't make sense. It would have made sense.
It would have made no sense at all.
He would have left with the title, and then who would have had the spotlight? Because if you're a champion, you would have spotlight.
Exactly.
And if you're not champion, then what? You're not really gonna have spotlight. So it doesn't really matter. It would have mattered if he would have left with the title, because I guarantee numbers would have went down, and not just numbers. A lot of people would have quit because they wouldn't have had a WWE title opportunity.
Okay, so say for an example, Bret would have stayed.
Okay.
What matches would he have had? Since now, Bret Hart is staying, Shawn Michaels is an up and coming star, but in that era, The Rock started coming up. Stone Cold started coming up, which him and Bret Hart had that heated rivalry going. So, what if he would have had other rivalries, like say The Rock, like heel versus heel? How do you think that rivalry would have went?
I feel like, for The Rock and Bret, that would be an interesting rivalry. I wouldn't feel like it would be one of my favorites because I don't see a Bret and The Rock fighting or actually I can, because they got a little bit of similar fighting style, but I feel like it would be more interesting to see Stone Cold and Bret Hart, because Stone Cold, to me, by far, he had the best character, one of the best characters in WWE. And to be honest, Stone Cold wasn't heel, but Stone Cold wasn't face. So you never knew what to expect out of him. Stone Cold could save someone, and then the next day he can stunner someone. You never knew what to expect out of him.
Exactly.
So that would have been an interesting rivalry to see, because you have a heel going against an anti, because he's not a heel or a face. Mm-hmm. So that's what you call an anti.
Exactly. No, exactly. Yeah. And that's the thing, though, that when you see a rivalry like that, it's like, holy shit, like, this is going to be a good rivalry. Right. And not for nothing, when Bret Hart and Shawn Michaels fought, they had a fierce battle. Like, holy shit. Like, these guys really were punching each other like they really hated each other. That's what made it so more unique. Now, say Shawn Michaels, because Shawn Michaels got hurt because of the Undertaker match that he had, casket match with the Undertaker, and he pretty much, his back was done. He couldn't wrestle anymore, for like 4 years. I forgot how long it was. I think it was 4 years. He stopped wrestling because of his back. But say if Bret would have never left, because that's the reason why him and the Undertaker got into that rivalry, because Bret Hart left WWE. So what if Bret didn't leave WWE? Or what if Shawn Michaels would have never got hurt? I was
just about to say.
What if with this Attitude Era, you got The Rock, Stone Cold. He fought Stone Cold at King of the Ring one time, and it was a hell of a match. So imagine he would have had a rivalry with The Rock.
He would have had, to be honest, he would have been, if he wouldn't have got injured, he probably would have been the top guy in the Attitude Era if he wouldn't have got injured at that time, because Shawn Michaels already had a pop.
Sorry guys, my nose hairs.
Once he was going against people like, Scott Hall, Bret Hart, people like that, it was already giving him an extra boost, because these are people that are already known into the WWE system. Mm-hmm. So if Shawn Michaels was to get injured, Shawn Michaels would probably have a lot of title opportunities right now, because Shawn Michaels would have been the guy to deserve it. Shawn Michaels is the type of guy that never gives up, and literally never gives up. If you've seen any of his Royal Rumble matches, he's been at number one and won all the way to the end. He never quits, and that's what I like about Shawn Michaels. His mentality is, I never give up. He always keeps going. So he would have had a lot of opportunities. I'm not saying he would have been the best in that time, because we can't forget about Stone Cold and The Rock. Mm-hmm. They were still coming up, but he would have been one of the top guys in that Attitude Era.
Of course, he would have been one of the top guys in that Attitude
and
Era.
I would have been fun.
But that's what I'm saying. Like, who's to say that with the matches up and coming, when it was in the Attitude Era, what if maybe, what if Shawn Michaels jumped ship to WCW? What if the roles were reversed? That Shawn Michaels would be the one that would have to lose the title, and Bret is in WWE.
Shawn Michaels wouldn't have been a star right now, to be completely honest. Because
do you think so?
But look at this. If Shawn Michaels was to go to what is it, WCW? Okay, just to make sure. If he would have went to WCW, you really think he still would have been Shawn Michaels? They probably would have changed him all up. They would have given him a new gimmick.
I'm not sure, because remember when Scott Hall and Kevin Nash went to WCW, they became big stars.
But
they made a shitload of money.
That's different, though. See, it's depending on how you use someone. Shawn Michaels was already doing good in the business at the time. So if he would have lost, then they would have been a major setback for Shawn Michaels. And then if he was to leave to go to WCW, they probably would have changed his character all up, because that's how wrestling businesses roll. In order to keep somebody alive or keep somebody's character up, they're gonna change the character in a different business.
All right, so
let me give you an example real quick. Look at Dean Ambrose. Mm-hmm. He left WWE. Now he's Jon Moxley. Nothing compared to WWE. Perfect example right there. Depending on the business, your whole gimmick gets changed, your character gets changed. I don't feel like it would have worked out for Shawn Michaels. Bret Hart is a different story, but Shawn Michaels...
Yeah, but Bret Hart really didn't do much in WCW either. So it was no point for him going over there. All he did was they killed his character. He got a shitload of money, and then after that, he got kicked in the head because of Goldberg, and then his whole career was over. But that's what I'm saying. What if the roles were reversed? What if Shawn Michaels was there? You know,
I still feel like it wouldn't have worked because Shawn Michaels, like I said,
Brian, what's going on, brother?
Shawn Michaels was already a star. He was already a star in that time.
Okay.
So imagine putting him into WCW.
So that means so that means you think he wouldn't have had a good rivalry with Ric Flair, Eddie Guerrero, Sting, Arn Anderson?
And I'm not see, that's where you got me. But that's not the point about that. The point is, I get it. He would have a whole bunch of great rivalries. If he was to go
Chris Jericho?
if he was to go into WCW
at the time, Chris Benoit.
If he would, and
there's a lot of guys there that he could.
I understand that, but we didn't know what was gonna happen if the tables were to turn.
So Lewis actually agrees with you. It says I would have to agree with the kid. HBK would not have been as popular.
That's what I'm saying.
No, of course, but
look, listen.
What I'm trying to say is how you've seen the roles are reversed. So you made your point. Shawn Michaels would not be a star. Now, say if Shawn Michaels and Bret Hart still stood all the way going past into the Attitude Era, do you think that maybe, God rest his soul, if Owen Hart would have never passed away and Bret Hart would have still been in WWE, would that rivalry continue?
Which rivalry?
Between Owen and Bret Hart.
I don't feel like it would have continued from the time it started all the way to WWE. I don't feel like that would have been that would have been a crazy rivalry to carry on from there.
They were Owen Hart was in WWE.
And
so was Bret Hart. That's what I'm saying.
Brother.
If Owen Hart was still alive at that time, and Bret Hart would have never left to WWE to WCW,
then
would the rivalry continue? Or would Stone Cold and Bret Hart's rivalry had continued?
I feel like what should have happened is this should have been like an all-heel rivalry. So like The Rock.
At a point there was.
I feel like The Rock and Stone Cold should have been. I know how much they hated each other at the time. Not literally, but how much of a rivalry they had. And to me, Stone Cold and The Rock had a great rivalry.
Okay,
but putting Owen Hart and Bret Hart against a Stone Cold and The Rock, I would love to see.
Okay, so I'm gonna read a few comments from Brian. Okay. Brian says that Shawn Michaels would have never been the Heartbreak Kid or the Showstopper in WCW or even Mr. WrestleMania.
My point, exactly.
And he just mentioned that Owen Hart would have been world champion eventually. Yes, he would have.
I agree.
And Jeff Robinson says he wouldn't have wrestled Jericho or Eddie. They were cruiserweights, and no, he didn't wrestle them. Well, he eventually did. He wrestled Jericho, and it was a hell of a match.
Look, hear me out.
But I understand what he's saying.
Okay.
At the time, Shawn Michaels was top dog.
Exactly.
Chris Jericho was a nobody. He was, I'm a cruiserweight.
And it's not even that. You can't, if you were to put, going back to this, if you were to put Shawn Michaels in WCW, you can't take somebody popular and then make them lose a title and then they go to another business. Mm-hmm. That's not going to work out.
No.
That's going to be a terrible transition.
Not. Of course it's going to be a terrible transition because you're taking the character out of a person that pretty much had it the entire time that when they were in WWE.
Exactly.
Just like when Bret Hart went to WCW, it was the biggest mistake he ever did.
Right.
You know what I mean? They were losing in ratings. Yes, he was gaining money, but then what?
Right.
There was nothing else to do. There was no storyline. They had to put him in the NWO, which he didn't even look like he even enjoyed.
Right.
He's just standing there like, come on. He didn't like it. WCW was not the place for him. At all. He didn't need to be in NWO at all.
Yeah, that was pointless.
He didn't need to be in it.
That was pointless.
You wanted to grow his character, put him up against Ric Flair. Put him up against Hulk Hogan. Put him up against Jericho. Any top star in WCW. Arn Anderson, whoever. Doesn't matter. Eddie Guerrero. Put him up there.
But see that, Padrino Brian has a point. Vince was screwing with him when he was in WWE. So this isn't
the man was getting paid more than any superstar, any wrestler in the locker room.
I get that, but it's not always about the money. It's not always about that. And it's probably because he wanted Bret Hart out of his hair. He probably paid him that much.
No, but look, it's true what Brian said. He didn't want to lose the title to nobody.
Exactly. So it wasn't... I get it.
It was a selfish act.
It was a selfish act, but it was also kind of dirty to make him lose that way.
Neither one of them were
In that right. We're in the right at that time.
In the right.
Exactly.
Neither one of them.
Exactly.
But Bret Hart had to think it from a business standpoint. This company made you the superstar that you are today.
And then he didn't. He was being selfish.
He was being selfish. Yes, no, I understand. You got a family to feed. You got to go where the money is. That's fine. But do the right thing and lose your title with pride
first. Exactly. Lose your title with pride.
Use your title with pride and finish it.
I feel like Bret Hart, he could have stayed if he would have lost the title. And I feel like I can guarantee this. If Bret Hart was to lose that title to Shawn Michaels and he would have stayed in the WWE, Bret Hart still would have been a star. Bret, if he want to transition,
listen,
if you want to transition from WWE to WCW,
at the time he was having a rivalry with the Undertaker. Imagine the rivalry they could have continued having
exactly
with both of them.
Right,
like it would have been magic,
exactly,
complete magic. You know what I'm saying? But that's what I'm saying. At the time, they didn't think about that. And then once Vince McMahon lost Bret Hart, he had to find a new star. He had to find that new star. And Shawn Michaels at the time was that new star until Stone Cold came along. Okay, let me read a comment here. I got a long comment from Mr. Christopher Brown. Let's not forget Louis Bret has had one of the largest egos in history of professional wrestling. He is so full of himself to this day that he can never accept anything less than his delusional beliefs in what he was worth in the ring prior to Goldberg ending his career, which he still complains about and pisses and moans. Yes, he does. Exactly. That's what I'm saying.
His ego is the best of
Jose G, welcome, brother. Jose G from Ricans of Wrestling, welcome. Always watch his show on Thursday nights at 8 o'clock. He has the great wrestling news all the time, each week. Him and his partner Rico Glorioso. I'm sorry, I'm not saying that.
Glorioso.
I'm not saying that like you, my friend. Only you can do it.
Right.
Only you can do it.
Glorioso.
But tune into the show every Thursday night at 8 o'clock. So Jay.
Yes.
Like we were mentioning that when it comes to, and he's right, Christopher Brown was right. Bret Hart had a massive ego.
He still does.
Of course he does. He always complains. He always complains about things that happened in the past. That Hulk Hogan wasn't a good worker. That let me see, Shawn Michaels wasn't a good worker. You know sometimes the Undertaker wasn't a good worker.
I call that a hater. I'm just being honest. I call that a hater. If you're gonna do that, if you're gonna talk to somebody, because no matter what, I'm sorry, Dad, but I'm not on a big Hulk Hogan fan. I'm not such a big Hulk Hogan fan. But I have enough respect for Hulk Hogan because Hulk Hogan did a lot for the business. And Hulk Hogan was an absolutely phenomenal wrestler. Just like with The Undertaker. The Undertaker went 20-0 for 20 years straight in WrestleMania.
Okay. I'm going to read this comment that Louis Cedeno says, which is absolutely true.
Okay.
In this business, there are guys out there who are very selfish and will do whatever to survive, not worrying about everyone else. It's true. This is professional wrestling. You want to make it to the top. So you got to kick, scratch, go through everybody no matter what you got to do. Why? Because you got to feed your family. You got to feed your mouth. You got to do all that crap. But sometimes you can't. If you're gonna do that, you can't be on the bad side of everybody, because that's not just gonna look bad for you. That's gonna look bad for business. Of course, it's bad for business.
People are eventually gonna stop enjoying the company that you have, or the negative energy that you're giving, and they're gonna leave.
Exactly.
And it's gonna be bad for business.
Exactly.
So he should have put his pride aside and took it. Like,
well, you know what else might be bad for business? If our fans don't share our post right now, guys, please feel free to share our post, guys, as we continue with this awesome topic of Shawn Michaels versus Bret Hart, the rivalry. What would have happened if Bret the Hitman Hart never left WWE? Would Shawn Michaels had been the star that he was? Would he have jumped to WCW? How would that all work? Would there ever been other rivalries with Bret Hart and a Stone Cold, or Bret Hart and The Rock, or Bret Hart and The Undertaker, or Shawn Michaels and The Undertaker? Like just keep it going. Or what if Bret Hart would have done more in WCW? You know what I'm saying? Like, wrestle these guys that would have taken him to the limit. Right. And And yes, Hulk Hogan was limited to his. He was a good. He was never good. He was limited to
that's
his
where
moves.
you're wrong. I feel like he was a good worker, but back then there wasn't really a lot of things you could do. Nobody really was creative.
Let me. Okay,
at that
so
time.
so let me jump into this.
Okay.
Hulk Hogan had two, three moves because Hulk Hogan was the star. Hulk Hogan was the muscle. But people fail to understand that he actually put on a hell of a match with the Great Muta in Japan. The man did moves. He did technical moves. He did takedowns. He did arm drags. He did a lot of stuff that many people never, ever thought Hulk Hogan can do.
But was that really the only time he's done that?
Because that was the only time he was able to do it.
Then,
because at that time, Hulk Hogan was Hulkamania,
then
and the Surprise and the Bridals and all that
doesn't
stuff.
really count then. He had a good match. I get it, but
that's what I'm saying. That he could have a decent match. I'm not. I gotta didisagree with you guys about him being a bad worker.
No, because
he made stars.
Then in that case,
he made stars.
Exactly.
He made a shitload of money, and they made money because of him. But he has an ego. He also has.
I'm pretty sure almost every wrestler back in that time.
But Hulk Hogan was the man at the time. But then his time came up.
Exactly.
Now that saying the prayers, take your vitamins, all that stuff, it was done.
It was done.
But now, Hollywood Hogan came.
I'm pretty sure.
Now, that's where the mistake was when Bret Hart went to WCW, putting him with the NWO and Hulk Hogan.
They would have had a good
instead of...
They should have put a rivalry with Hollywood Hogan and Bret Hart. I would have enjoyed to see that more rather than Bret Hart joining NWO.
Yeah, no, Brian. I'm definitely not saying he could perform like a technical wrestler. I'm saying that he can perform more moves and do a little something extra. He had that decent match, but never a technical wrestler. That's out the picture. He's Hulk Hogan, strongman. They jump. No, that's Exactly. Mr. Cantrell says, he says you got to look at that. They don't wrestle. This is all their thoughts on history. Christopher Brown says Hogan also suppressed stars. Lewis kept guys like Piper down from even sniffing the world title, and there's no excuses for that. Well, actually, Piper never wanted that title. He made it clear. He never wanted that world title. But at the time, the fans wanted Hulk Hogan. And Roddy Piper was that heel. You always got to have that connection. And either way, if Piper didn't have the title or not, he made a shitload of money because of that rivalry he had. The merchandise that they had. Everything that they did.
He still won his own title, but I say that because people hated Roddy Piper.
Of course.
Because of how good of a heel he is.
That's what I'm saying. So why would you give a title to Roddy Piper if you got a face that is bringing you so much money,
right?
That's bringing you so much fans,
right?
And you got a heel that is bringing you so much fans as well and merchandise.
Exactly.
You got to do this business.
That's what, as a heel.
Piper said it all the time. He didn't need a title.
He didn't. He really didn't.
It would have been good to see him as a champion, but
he didn't need one.
He didn't need one.
It could have been.
That's what made him so.
Yeah,
unique.
Exactly. It wasn't really a priority.
He's one of the only superstars, the one of many few that I can say he did not need a world title or any title to prove himself that he was the best villain, the greatest villain.
Not even the greatest villain, a good wrestler at the time.
Yes,
he didn't need a title to prove that.
So that's another thing. Piper came to WCW. Why they never put Roddy Piper with Bret Hart?
Bret Hart. Weren't they both? Bret Hart's a heel, right?
Yeah.
Okay, exactly. A heel versus a heel. That would have worked. But I feel like it also has something to do with egos. If they won, it probably has something to do with Bret Hart's ego. He probably didn't want to lose to Bret Hart.
Well, pretty much it was both of them. Because at the time, Piper was humble. At the time, Piper was humble. And it comes to a point where you gotta do business the right way. You know what I'm saying? Like Louis Daniel says, in this business, it takes two wrestlers to tell a story in the ring. If you put a rookie in the ring with a vet, that vet will put that rookie over to make that rookie look good. Exactly. That's what business is for. That's what it's about. Brian says, but keep in mind, back in the day, you couldn't train to become a wrestler as much as one can now. Where present days, there are so many different avenues a performer can take to become a wrestler.
I agree.
Exactly.
Couldn't have said it better myself.
It's different, and it's true what both of them says. It's true.
Right.
You have to take that step as the veteran to bring this newcomer up.
Right.
You know, that's the whole point. You know, and Piper, at times he wasn't humble. He at times refused to do certain jobs, but he still. But that's
a lot of people though.
No, but that's what the business was back then. You know what I'm saying? There's certain people that wanted him to get over. There's certain people that Piper did not want to get over. You know, there's certain things that you do in this business and certain things you don't. And at that time, Piper tried to protect the business, especially with an issue with Mr. T. You know, but in the case of Shawn Michaels and Bret the Hitman Hart, those two had major egos. You know, those two, they didn't know, and even Bret Hart said it in an episode of Legends of Wrestling on the WWE Network, if we would have somehow got past our egos, you never know where the rivalry would have taken them. You never know how that would have gotten.
I feel like the rivalry too, like the real life rivalry would have went even longer if they were both, if Bret Hart stood in the WWE.
Mm-hmm. Exactly. And when you talk about making somebody look good, like if Bret Hart or Shawn Michaels can do that for other superstars, so Daniel says in this case, Muta made Hogan look good. You're absolutely right. He did. And just like Ric Flair made him look good. Because, like you said, you have to trust each other in the ring. You got to tell a story. You got to create that rivalry as it goes along, you know? This one with Shawn Michaels and Bret Hart, they created a story, but what made the story even more personal is that it was real. They didn't like each other.
Exactly.
They hated each other. Like that was a rivalry that nobody.
So that's what made it. That's what also made it interesting because they wouldn't let their egos get past them because they both hated each other. So of course they're both gunning for number one because they literally.
But that's what I'm saying. That's in any era. It happened.
But this is different though. Like they hated each other to the max.
They hated each other to the max.
They both had big egos. So imagine hating someone and having a big ego.
Okay, so pretty much it happens in every era. Hulk Hogan, Roddy Piper, the most hated rivalry in that era. Shawn Michaels, Bret Hart. Okay. Stone Cold, The Rock. John Cena, maybe The Miz, maybe CM Punk, whoever.
Probably.
You know?
Yeah.
That's what I'm saying. Each rivalry, there's always those two superstars, those two wrestlers that some are works, some are actually personal. You know, and we've seen many wrestlers that it has to become personal in the ring sometimes.
What about the rivalry Rock and John Cena had? Their rivalry was personal too, wasn't it?
Yeah, of course it was personal. That was going back for years.
Exactly.
But now that's what I'm saying. How do you think, would you think the John Cenas would have been made if Bret Hart would still have
I
stood
still
in the
feel like
ring?
John Cena could have been made. John Cena would have been made.
Do you think that Shawn Michaels would have ever gave him the time of day?
John Cena?
Or if Shawn Michaels would have never got hurt, would he have given John Cena the time of day?
100%. At least to me, 100%. Because John Cena, the Doctor of Thugonomics, that is my favorite John Cena. So imagine putting him against Shawn Michaels.
Another one. James Sargent says Matt Hardy and Edge
was personal. Exactly.
Like that was a personal thing because Lita cheated on Matt Hardy with Edge. It was personal, you know. So Cena said, Jeff Robinson said Cena and Batista could go in that category. Yeah, they had that rivalry, but at the point they didn't like each other either because they were both vying for that top spot.
That's what you said. That's everybody.
That's what I'm saying. That's my point. That you have it with Hulk Hogan and Roddy Piper. Both of them were fighting for the top spot. Shawn Michaels and Bret Hart, both fighting for the top spot. Stone Cold and The Rock fighting for the top spot. John Cena and whoever the hell is there. Now you got Roman Reigns, and on the other side you got Randy Orton.
Exactly.
Which are facing at the Survivor Series. So,
but listen to this. In WWE, to me personally, for me, it doesn't matter how you act backstage. What happens is your fate or the way you act depends on your career. And what I'm saying is, depending on the way you act backstage, depending on the way you act towards certain people, is the way you get more chances, the way you get more opportunities. The more people hate you, or the more you hate other people in the locker rooms, the more chances you have, and the more slim your chances get of winning a title or something like that. And I feel like that was also Bret Hart's problem. Bret Hart probably didn't like a lot of people in the locker room, and like I said, his ego comes back into place, and then that happened. He didn't like a lot of people. So
there's a few comments here that I'm going to mention. First one's from Christopher Brown, which he's probably right. Taker would have used his locker room influence on Shawn to prevent Shawn from dumping all over John Cena. Yes, because Undertaker was the locker room leader.
He was.
Nobody screwed with him. He laid the law down. Brian says HBK had a huge ego as well. Hell yeah. The minute he saw someone trying to one-up him, he would bring them down. That's absolutely right.
That's probably why him and Bret did not get along, because they both had the same problem.
It was that ego.
Exactly.
The ego was
and
too
it wasn't
high.
even the ego. Every time they would try to see somebody come up to each other, bring them back down.
Okay.
And it so happened to be them two.
Okay, so here's my question.
Lay it on me.
And you might not know about this, but I'm going to ask the fans.
All right.
When Bret the Hitman Hart shoved Vince McMahon in the ring and started cursing and got upset and cursed, was it a work or was it real?
I feel like it was real. That's not something scripted. A chairman or the general manager will let happen. I feel like that was real. I feel like Vince did not plan that at all, because I've seen Vince get kicked in the head by Randy Orton. I've seen him get headbutted by Kevin Owens, but to get shoved and then start cursing, that's different.
Okay, so James Sargent and Mr. Cantrell and Brian said that was very real. Okay, why do you guys think that was real though? Like,
I've seen it happen before. That's the only reason why I answered, because I seen it on YouTube. I've seen it happen. He shoved him down and then he started cursing. And that's not something you see on an average basis. So
but what I'm talking about is, now I'm not talking about that when he did the Montreal Screwjob. I'm talking about, this was a cage match that Bret Hart had just finished. Vince McMahon went in the ring and asked him about the match, and then Bret Hart pushed him down on the floor. You understand? So that's what I'm asking. He said, "Oh, this is bullshit." Excuse my French. Was it real? Or was it...
That means he must have lost the match
work?
Then.
That's my question.
That can't be work, Dad. That can't be work. He can't just say that.
See, right here, Bret. James Sargent says Bret was upset on how he was treated. He didn't want to lose the title to HBK.
So it was real.
It was real. But that's what I'm saying. With that push in the ring, like, I'm not talking about the Montreal Screwjob.
The actual push.
Push in the ring. That he pushed him in the ring. He took the mic and said, you always screwing me. The WWE locker room is always screwing me. That you guys know I'm the best there is, the best there was, the best there ever will be. And then came down The Undertaker. And then came down Stone Cold. And then came down Sid Vicious. So that's why I'm asking, was it a work or was it a shoot?
Then it had to be a shoot. It had to be real. Because if it wasn't real, I feel like it was also a good thing for Bret Hart to leave, because I feel like half of these guys wouldn't have had the chance to be who they are. So we probably wouldn't have seen much of Stone Cold, The Rock, Undertaker, John Cena, Edge. The list goes on and on. You wouldn't have seen guys like that wrestling if Bret Hart was still in the WWE, because his pride. This all has to do with his pride and his ego. His ego would have got the best of him. He wouldn't have want no one to beat him, and then he would have problems.
No, but that's what I'm saying. That's what I'm saying. How do you think things would have gotten if maybe the John Cena's would have came up, or the Batistas and the Randy Orton? You know, would Shawn Michaels and Bret Hart still have been around? You know, would they have gotten into rivalries with these guys?
Right.
That's the question.
Exactly.
If Bret Hart would have been around, would he have accepted the new talent coming into the WWE?
What? Okay.
That's my question. And the same thing with Shawn Michaels. What if Shawn Michaels, like I said, would have never got hurt in that casket match, and then suddenly he kept wrestling, still staying champion, and then after that, everybody starts coming up. You got Triple H trying to move up. That's another thing. Would Triple H have been the star he been if Shawn Michaels would have never got hurt?
There wouldn't have been no probably wouldn't even.
That's what I'm saying. Would that have ever happened?
There wouldn't have been a D-Generation X. That probably wouldn't have happened. There wouldn't have been no Randy Orton and Shawn Michaels. That wouldn't have happened. Shawn Michaels probably would have still been Hunter Hearns Helmsley instead of Triple H.
Wait a minute. He said, Cantrell, you say yes, you would. Don't say that, little fan. What are you talking about? I don't understand what you're talking about. My son could say anything. This is his show. This is our show, brother. No disrespect intended. But we call the shots here. Appreciate it. Okay, let's continue. With that being said, I don't think Triple H would have been the star. I don't think he would have been the star that he would have been.
Triple H wouldn't have been Triple. He still would have been HHH, Hunter Hearns Helmsley. He wouldn't have been Triple H. He just would have been the regular name.
You said
they gave him.
Okay, he said everyone still would have existed. Like who'd you mention would not have existed?
Undertaker. Triple H.
That exactly. Well,
none of them.
Exactly.
None of them.
At that point, I don't think Triple H would have existed.
Exactly.
Honestly, if Shawn Michaels was still around, Triple H would have never existed because Shawn Michaels wanted for Shawn Michaels. Not Triple H, exactly. Not John Cena. He wanted for Shawn Michaels. And yes, Brian, Triple H and Bret rivalry would have been epic. That's what I'm saying. So, but if Shawn Michaels would have never got hurt, I guarantee you that Triple H would have never got that character because of Shawn Michaels holding him down at the time. Yes, Shawn Michaels came back, and he came back a better person. He started going for the business. He started doing what he had to do. You know what I'm saying? And then that's when Triple H was created after Shawn Michaels left, because he took DX to a whole nother level.
Exactly. He had the opportunity. He caught his opportunity.
So that's my point. You know what I'm saying? That this is the things that we think about of Shawn Michaels and Bret Hart.
John Cena probably wouldn't have been John Cena either, because John Cena, he wouldn't have never became the Doctor of Thugonomics, because Shawn Michaels would have probably been holding him down. But it's just another thing with the opportunities. Since Shawn Michaels probably left, that gave them an opportunity to make John Cena. Now look at him. The man has won like 16 titles already.
Well,
that's great.
Well, James Sargent says Triple H would have been a face if HBK was 100% heel. Well, if he was 100%. I still feel like and Cantrell said Triple H would have been the end to Bret in the WWE.
I gotta disagree.
Maybe. I
gotta disagree.
Because Bret Hart was an excellent talent. He was a great technical wrestler, but Triple H had his thing too. You know, Triple H, he was good in the ring. He moved his way up, but to say the end of Bret Hart, I'm not sure. You know, Bret Hart at the time, Bret Hart still had gas in the tank. You know, he was able to keep up with the best.
He was.
You know,
okay.
He had a hell of a match with 1-2-3 Kid. He was for the WWE title. And you see, even Jessica Hoffman said it, very true, that he would have never existed. You know, it's like exactly no Stephanie. Triple H and Stephanie would have never came on TV.
DX wouldn't have happened either. DX.
That's what I'm saying.
Triple H wouldn't have been Triple H.
Exactly. See, this is the comment I was waiting for from Jeff Robinson. HBK came back a better man, a wrestler, and a humble person.
If he was injured,
that's how Shawn Michaels came back. That's why you saw the stars that came up the way they did with Triple H, with Jeff Hardy, with Edge, Randy Orton, Batista, because you didn't have guys like Shawn Michaels there holding down. I'm not taking anything away from Shawn Michaels. Shawn Michaels was by far one of the best if not the best ring performers of all time. What I'm saying is, back then, Shawn Michaels' ego was to stop anyone from trying to get up top.
And to be honest, if he would have got injured, he would have...
Same thing with Bret Hart.
Exactly.
Both of them had a massive ego that took to the top. That both of them were like right here.
Mm-hmm. Going back and forth.
But you know what? It was amazing. Because the rivalry was insane that they had. That they just put it all out there. And just like...
putting all their energy
let's do
into
it.
Right.
Let's make this shit look real.
Exactly.
You know?
And that's what they did.
Exactly. And that's what they did.
Exactly.
So I see today that this topic was very controversial, Jay.
Very. Yeah.
Very controversial, but that's what we're here about. We're making cause a little controversy, you know, stir up the pot a little bit, but get the fans interacting. You know, nothing personal. We all have fun. We take care of business. We love talking to the fans because that's what we do. Jaden, in your opinion, would Shawn Michaels have existed if Bret Hart would have stayed in WWE?
Yes.
Okay.
I feel like there's only one problem to that. The rivalry would have went probably worse. So like it would have been like even more heat between those two, and then it just would have went terrible. So if he was to stay in WWE, it would just be back and forth between them, and then it probably would have came to a draw where neither one of them gets the title. So yeah, I still feel like Shawn Michaels would have existed, but it wouldn't have gone. Shawn Michaels wouldn't have been as great as he is today if Bret Hart was still here.
Well,
but like people say, things happen for a reason.
James Sargent says if HBK would have stayed healthy, he would have ran WWE to new heights.
That's
in 1996, and was HBK's breakout year. Yes. Excuse me. Brian says Vince would have made them tag team champions.
Vince, why do you call him Vince?
He probably misspelled.
Oh, Vince.
Made them. He would have definitely. He
probably would have made them tag champs.
Kencho says, Brian, stop.
Yeah, he probably would have made them.
See. This is what I like. See, this is what make me happy as a podcaster. Jeff Robinson said, enjoyed this one. You should do an NWO episode down the road.
Who knows?
Well, we got that request. We're actually going to talk about that right after the show. But wrestling fans, our time is up tonight. We're glad you enjoyed the topic. We're glad you enjoyed this controversy about this amazing rivalry between Shawn Michaels and Bret the Hitman Hart, two of the best superstars of all time in professional wrestling, the two greatest wrestlers of all time, I should say. Yes, it would have been a long-lasting rivalry, James, like Dusty Rhodes and Ric Flair. Absolutely, it would have been amazing. It would have been an amazing rivalry. Yes, Brian, Vince is very predictable. Very predictable. He definitely would have put Shawn and Bret as a tag team and to win the tag team titles. But thank you for watching our show, fans. We're glad you enjoyed this topic. Next week, Evolution of Pro Wrestling Trivia 7. And we have our reigning defending trivia champion, Mr. Brian Montalvo. He will be defending his title with many other fans that are going to be in there that day for next week.
Looking forward.
Do you got what it takes to handle the Encyclopedia of Pro Wrestling?
Or
Do you got what it takes to handle the Whiz Kid? Bring it on. If you guys remember, when you think you got the answers, we change the questions. Also, just to keep you guys updated. Oh, wait a minute. We got another request. Jessica Hoffman said you should do the rise and fall of the NWO. James is throwing shots out there to the reigning champion, saying Mr. B2B will be there. Mr. Back to Back. Brian, he's calling you out, my brother. He's ready. So I hope you guys are ready for trivia.
I'm looking forward to seeing what these two guys have.
These two guys did battle. They did battle last week.
They got a good rivalry going on.
Yes, they sure did. Brian still the remaining champion. So I'm eager to look at this one. And fans
me too.
All right, guys. Okay. Jefferson, I'm glad you're looking forward to it, brother. Also, we want to bring to your attention again, we did a post a couple of weeks ago about our Evolution of Pro Wrestling interpromotional 16-man tournament, which we already posted the matches, but we want to add something to it. We mentioned that we were going to give the fans the opportunity to announce this stipulation, but instead we changed that. We will be getting the Wheel of Evolution, which means we're going to have 10 stipulations on this wheel. We're going to spin that wheel, and whatever stipulation it lands on with that match,
exactly,
that's what it's going to be. We're going to talk about it, and then you guys decide who is going to win this first half of the tournament. It will be a two-part event. With so right now we have our guest for that show, Mr. Jose G from Recons of Wrestling. So we hope you guys Brian, don't worry, it's James says spin the wheel, make the deal. Yeah, I wouldn't say that because I don't want to do no trademark, but that's what we call it.
Spin the wheel, make the deal.
That's what I'm saying. We make the wheel called the Wheel of Evolution. So, but we hope you guys tune in next week again for our wrestling trivia. Follow us on Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, Twitter, and TikTok as well. Also, please feel free to follow us on YouTube, subscribe to our channel, I should say. Please like our page, join our Evolution group, tell us your thoughts, and
spin the wheel.
Oh yeah, spin the wheel. That's what I'm saying. He's looking forward to it. That's why we made we made that decision. We all our partners made that decision to spin the wheel, whatever stipulation it lands on. That's what it's going to be, and it's going to be an amazing tournament. So we're going to have Jose G as our guest in a two-part show. As of right now, that's what's pretty much confirmed. But we're definitely glad you're looking forward to it. So fans, tune in next week again to our trivia. See if you can deal with the wits of, the guys over here. Okay? For myself, Lewis, the Encyclopedia of Pro Wrestling.
And Jay, the Whiz Kid of Pro Wrestling.
And for my producer and director, my lovely wife, Yesenia. Thank you, fans, for watching. Tune in next week.